Welcome, 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 you guys. Welcome to our first event here in January, kicking off the new year of 2024. And I have a very, very dear friend of mine with us today. And I just could not be more excited. I told her, I was like, girl, we got to get this book out there and we've got to share it with the world. And I have the right place to be able to do that. So before we get started and sharing with more about Chosen and Crowns, the book that she created, wrote, I want you guys to understand that every single one of us has a purpose and a plan that God has designed for each and every one of us. And that plan is only for each and every one of us, right? And so your plan is different than mine. And I was reading this morning in the book, and every single morning I love to wake up and go read, what did God create for that person, that purpose and that plan for that person, and how did he use them and intertwine the life that they are living to be able to glorify him and what all that he has done through each and every one of us and in continuing to still do is just really fun to look at everyone's lives and how God really kind of connects and what is it called? Interwoven in and through our lives. So with that to be said, we've known each other for how long?
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Yes. And let's give them a little backstory on how we kind of met. We met at was it a trade show or?
It was a trade show.
Okay.
And I was there with my booth. You were there with your booth.
Yep.
And I'm walking by when I have a minute to check out the other booths. And I come up on her and there's music playing and she's over there dancing.
Naturally, right?
And doing her thing as she's, setting up her little stuff and moving things around. And I just thought she was adorable and went in her booth and we got to talking, and then we ran into each other at a different event and I was like, oh my gosh, there you are. And we just kept connecting and one thing led to another and we have just been like this for so long now.
Years and years. And it's just so beautiful, you guys. And that brings it up right there, and how God just really connected us. And we didn't even know each other prior to, and he took that moment and just blossomed a friendship that has just been so near and dear to both of our hearts. We've gone through so much from, just a lot of life that we've gone through. God has been there to help both of us to kind of get back on path and kind of help us move forward. And you guys, here's the key to that, is that finding true friendship that won't turn on you, that you can just speak to and you can talk to and share your heart with, and they don't look at you any different. That's huge. And that is hard to find these days, isn't it?
That's what I would call unconditional love and friendship.
Yep.
And we have definitely been through highs and
Yes.
lows together.
Yes.
And it reminds me of Moses in the Old Testament when they were fighting the Amalekites and he's up on the mountain, and as his hands are raised, they're winning, but as his arms get tired and they go down, they're losing.
And they raise it up.
Aaron and her came and held an arm, and the whole time they were up, they were winning.
Wow.
And so that's what we do for each other. And that's what women should do for each other, is prop each other up.
I love that. So, what an image to be able to leave today even and take that away. Yeah. That is huge. That's powerful. And so this group is designed to lift you guys up and support you. Over the past, years in the past, I haven't done a great job in this group, but you know what? God really spoke to my heart, and he said, you have so many women that I have put in your care for you to nurture and to grow and to be able to lean in on with him and be able to help you guys. And so that's what we're doing. We're kicking off a new year. This had to be first. I was like, oh my gosh, we've got to kick this off. So let's dive in a little deeper.
I want to speak to that as well when you say I haven't done much with this group or whatever you're saying, but now God is using it.
Yeah.
That's what this whole book is about.
That's
a
right.
time such as this.
That's right.
So
Woo!
God was spending
I have chills.
God was spending all these years building your testimony so that she would be prepared for today. Because when God gives us a dream on our heart, it's not for today when he gives it to you. It's to tell you, this is the dream I put on your heart, and I'm going to prepare you. It could be 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, and then you're ready. So you are ready, my dear, for a time such as this.
Ooh, okay, you got Kleenex? because I need it's okay. Wow. And isn't that
good?
He is. And he prepares us. And so many times we think that, gosh, when is it ever going to happen, right? Whatever it is. And God just continues to say, hold on. I can see everything. You can't. So lean in and trust in me that I can see what you don't see. You guys, if that resonates with you on any level, give us some love and hearts in the chat, and definitely interact today. We'll go back and be able to look at those and kind of, come back and talk to you guys through those. But let's dive in, because this is just awesome and it's remarkable in the book that you've wrote. But you haven't just written this book. So let's talk about Grace Reacher, and let's talk about her, and tell us a little bit more about her.
Okay, so I am on Facebook, Chrissy Daisy Hawkins. I go by Daisy Hawkins. She knows me as Chrissy, and that's okay. I answer to all of them. But when God put this dream on my heart to be an author, I was a child. I was very young. I love to read. I love to go to the library. And 40 plus years later, he says, okay, now we're going to start writing. So that dream was a 40-year-old dream.
Wow.
And when he said, okay, now we're going to start, he gave me a pen name. Grace Reacher. His grace is going to reach all of us.
Wow.
So that's where my name came from.
Ugh.
So enjoy Grace Reacher, because it's really God giving you a message that his grace is reaching you.
Woo.
So that's where that came from.
Okay, I did not even know that. That is powerful.
Yeah.
That is huge. All right. Wow. All right. And then you have written a few more.
Yes.
Prior to this one?
The first book was Abandoned But Not Alone, which we did an interview on that last year, and you can find on the website, chosencrown.one. And that was the first book of a trilogy. We have a second book coming out in the spring that is a continuation of the story of Grace. And then there's a third book coming out after that one that'll end that trilogy. But in the middle, how did Chosen and Crowned come about? I don't have plans to write. God has plans, and he drops them in my heart and head and says, okay, we're going to write about this. So what had happened is back in 2020, my husband passed away, and I thought, I cared for him for many years while he was sick. And when he passed away, I thought I was going to die. I didn't know if I didn't know who I was going to be, if I was even going to survive without him. And as I am laying in God's arms, allowing him to carry me through that grief, I'm thinking, I don't have any purpose. And God says, oh yeah, I have a purpose for you.
Wow.
Follow me.
Wow.
So while I'm thinking there's, what's next for me, God says, follow me. We're going to read the whole Bible. I have never read the whole Bible in my life. I've grown up in church, but I've never studied but bits and pieces, which a lot of people call Bible roulette, where you just kind of point and read kind of thing. You open your Bible. And what had happened is he said, let's go back to Genesis 1:1. And when I did that, it was scary, but I let the Holy Spirit lead me through every verse, every chapter from Genesis to Revelation, and it transformed my life.
Wow.
he's had me do that 3 times now, 3 years in a row. After my husband passed away, he had me dig deep in the Bible and learn his whole story that we're told is not relevant. We only need to read the New Testament, right? So I learned the whole Bible's relevant. And guess what else I learned? That there's all these women in there that we're not taught about in sermons or lessons. And those stories God put there for a reason for us to learn from their stories and their experiences. Those women, they didn't think they are just like us. Different time, but just like us.
They are.
Am I worthy? Am I, is there a purpose for me? Why am I here? You know, I've sinned, I'm not good enough. God can't use me. Nobody loves me. You know, why keep living? Those women had the same thoughts we have. And God knew that we would need to have their stories to know how to deal with life. So really, this book is filled with stories of women you can relate to, and they've already been through it. You know how when you've been through something and you learn from it, you want to share your testimony to help somebody else going through it.
That's good.
That's exactly what these women are doing. God intentionally put their stories in there so we can learn from them. But if we don't read the whole Bible, we don't know they're there. So God has sent me on a mission to get all of you reading the whole Bible, the whole story, because it's all relevant. And most of the stories in this book are from the Old Testament. So if you don't read the Old Testament, you're not going to know this. And you know what else? If the enemy can keep lying to us to not read the whole Bible, if we don't know the truth, he can keep lying to us about our worth. And we keep believing those lies that God's not going to use us, that we don't have a purpose. Well, God uses us every day, but there is one specific purpose for every woman. And that's what you learn in this study, is one day he calls them up for a time such as this, and bam, he uses them in a big way. And it's not to say he doesn't use them every day, but you've got a big purpose. What I found out from learning this is he wanted me to start an online women's ministry. He wanted me to start writing books and blogs and spreading his love and his truth and giving encouragement and hope to women. And it's been a blessing. But if you had asked me 10 years ago even, would I be doing this? No, I would not. But that God brought that dream back alive of being an author, and I had totally forgotten about it because of life experiences. So it's really natural for you to forget the dream that God gives you. So pray that God will remind you what that is.
Ooh, girl, that is so powerful. Are y'all loving this already?
I get fired up.
I love it. Well, you know, it's interesting that you just said that last part is that, you know, there is a dream in every single one of us. Every single one of us has a dream. And I want you to just stop here for a moment. And I want you to think back, what was that dream as a little girl? What were you dreaming? What did you want? And I'll tell you mine. And it is just so profound that I'm doing this today. But, I have always, so I was a cheerleader, can you tell? And so I loved being a cheerleader, but I would put on that uniform and it was almost like I just morphed into a totally different person in that I wanted to help so many people in the stands get on their feet. Like that was my job, as if I were the only one there. Like in my head, that's the way it was. And it was like, I wanted everybody to get on their feet. So I worked hard. Like I was sweating. My hair was like falling out. Ponytail was like half up here, half down here. And my cheer coach used to say, you have so much passion. And she just wrote that about a year ago and sent it to me. And she said, I'll never forget. You had so much passion to help everybody get on their feet and work to help the football team to get behind them and support them and lift them up so that they knew that they had a support team behind them. Y'all, that was like powerful to me. So God brought this group years ago that I wanted to have a platform where I could pour into women's lives.
And what was that? Girls with Purpose?
Girls with Purpose. Girlfriends with Purpose. This group right here. And then about a year ago, God trying to okay, our Wi-Fi was playing with us for a minute there. We were like, wait a minute. So anyway, long story short, it morphed into She Soars because I felt like my wings had gotten clipped and that I had just been, I went through a long 4 years, a battle, even 5 years really, and you were there for many of that. And then God really gave me She Soars mentally, spiritually, physically, personally, and professionally. And that was where he said, this is not over. I want you to stay with me. And look where we are today, you guys. God gave me the green light in December. He's like, you need to open that group back up and you need to go full-fledged and don't stop because I've got work to do. So with that being said, this book relates to all of that. And I've been reading it and it has been amazing. And I've gotten to Naomi. That's where I'm at. And so I am super excited for you guys to learn more. So let's dive deep real quick.
Well, let me point to that.
Yes.
She was talking about how she was soaring, all this passion and cheering, and then your wings got clipped.
Yep.
That's the enemy clipping the wings sometimes, but sometimes it's God refocusing us and teaching us new things for what he has next for us.
That's so good. She's so good.
But what you and I have learned a lot.
Yeah, we have.
So we have a lot to share.
Lots of wisdom.
From our experiences. But God knew we would do that too.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he connected us, because we went to a brain
that's funny.
training one time about, which part of the brain does what. It was some kind of, class for
Communication.
Communication and leadership growth or something like that. And we learned that she was like, I don't remember which was which, but she was the right brain and I was the left, or vice versa. And I said, we make a complete brain, you and me. So we work really well together. But my point is, we've both been broken.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Both of us have had our wings clipped, and you get down. And what do we say? You can sit in the mud for a minute, but then you get up and dance in the rain.
That's right.
That's what she created, that phrase, and I love it. So I use that a lot, that, okay, we can be down for a minute, but then we got to dust ourselves off and get back up. And God has used our pain to stretch us and grow us. And that's what he does with tests and trials. And that's what we learn from these women in this book.
Absolutely.
The tests and trials they've been through, God stretched them, taught them, put them through the fire, cut off dead limbs, got off the impurities, and then used them for something even greater.
Yeah.
So when your wings get clipped, don't give up. Stay in the mud a minute and get back up. And get going, because he's got things for us to do. Wow,
y'all didn't know this was going to be that good, did you? Like,
and
you need to tag some people because they need to hear this. We all need to hear this.
And what's funny, I hold on to this like a lifeline, and because I'm like, well, I hope I don't forget to say something. And
you're just
and
like,
it's like blah.
God's like, I got you.
And I did tell him, Lord, speak to them.
That's
I have nothing to say.
That's right.
And that's what we do when we write. He tells me what to write, and I type.
That's right.
So he's really dictating.
That is so awesome.
Books to me.
So good, so good. Well, let's talk about Chosen and Crowned. And let's focus on specifically, what inspired you to write Chosen and Crowned? And let's focus specifically on the women in the Bible. So like you already alluded to that to some degree. So where did that come from? Chosen and Crowned, like that name of the book.
Okay. Well, actually, when this ministry began, it was called The Esther Uprising. And that was the name God gave me. And I think it was God pulling me up out of the ashes like he did Esther.
Wow.
He took her as a child and he brought her up to prominence that he designed for her to save his people. And he gave me that name for this ministry, and he said, this ministry, build it, get it ready. It's not for now, it's for later.
Wow.
Just like our dreams. So it started out with that name, and as I was learning and growing, and then he had a prophetic word given to me of chosen and crowned. And I didn't know how that was going to be used. And then year before last, or a year or two ago, he had me change it to chosen and crowned. He said, now we're evolving over to this. And chosen and crowned not only was a prophetic word that just came to me, that was given to me to use when God was ready, it's still similar to all of us being chosen,
Absolutely,
set apart,
yeah,
and crowned by God
Whoa.
to be used.
That's huge.
And you don't have to be a queen or a princess, but guess what? To God, all of us are princess to him. He is our heavenly Father. Jesus is our King. And we are his princess.
That is
Princess
beautiful.
Bride. So that's where the name came from.
I love it. I love it. So on this next question you have, can you share a personal story or experience that connected you deeply with one of these biblical named women in the Bible?
Let's see. Okay, when you, and we're going to need interaction and feedback as y'all go through this study in y'all's private group with her, with Mary, on how this is affecting you as you go through each story. You're going to find that you relate to some more than others. There may be some that you didn't really get a feeling, but you're always going to learn something from every woman.
Yeah.
So I was surprised as I was going through it. Well, I can relate to that. Well, I can relate to that. And there was one particular woman I could relate to more than others, but let me tell you who my let's see, top five. No, let's see, 6.
I love
7.
it. Yeah, tell us.
I don't want to forget. So as an example, Eve.
Okay.
I related to her in the fact that, I related to her in the fact that she had it made. Everything was going her way, and she let the enemy slither in
Wow.
for just 1 minute, and suddenly she doubted everything she knew and started believing the lie instead.
Yeah.
I could relate to that.
I can relate to that.
Right?
Can you relate to that?
How many times have we believed the lie?
Yeah.
So, and then Sarah. Sarah is one that you will learn who had a word from God, a promise that was for later, not for now. But guess what Sarah did? Sarah got impatient and she helped God.
I've been there.
Helped God make the plan, and guess what? It backfired.
Yes.
And guess what? She paid the consequences.
Yes, I did.
So check. So you see what I'm saying? And then there was Hannah. Hannah was the mother of the prophet Samuel, and she made a vow. She was barren. She wanted to get pregnant, so she went and made a vow to God that if he would just give her a son, she would give him back to God forever. I did that. I could relate to that, and I learned the importance of keeping a vow. Do not make a vow to God unless you intend to keep it, because he don't play. He will call that vow. So that was one. Then there was Ruth. You know, I was remarried, and God, I thought I'd lost everything through the divorce. So with Ruth, she wasn't divorced. Her husband passed away, but she thought she lost everything. And then she had no idea that God had bigger plans for her. And we don't know what kind of husband she had.
Sure.
But God brought her Boaz. And what a story Ruth and Boaz have together. So I can relate to that, because my second husband who passed away, what a blessing, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, he was such a blessing.
He was such a love and a blessing to me. So I can relate to Ruth. Then there's Esther. So not that I'm a queen, mind you, let's clear that up. But God raised up this little girl, gave her a dream. She becomes queen, and he uses her to save his people. So what is he doing with me in this online ministry and these books and these blogs? He's not raising me up to be a queen or to be popular. He's raising me up to spread the word of salvation and make sure all of his daughters are going to heaven.
Wow.
So I can relate to that. Then we'll just go with these. I'll try and stop at these, but you get my point. These are exciting stories, and they were hidden in the Bible the whole time,
powerful.
and we've never been taught. But my favorite was Anna, and you haven't gotten to her yet.
No, I haven't.
So she is a widow who has, after being a widow and thinking she's lost everything and doesn't have a purpose, she gives her life to God and spends the rest of her life serving him. And that's how I relate. I thought my life was over. I didn't have a purpose. Who was I going to be? And God said, oh, I got big plans for you if you'll follow me. I'm like, yep, I'm ready. Now I'm just going to focus on you. So if you're a widow, don't be discouraged. That gives you more time to be alone with God. That's a big deal.
Or if you know someone who's gone through that, right?
Yeah.
And it may not be you, or, you know, we don't know the future. None of us do. And I just read in Naomi's story where, you know, I hope I'm right. I'm getting fact checked here when I say this.
That's
but
okay. God teaches us all something different.
That's right. But how she gets married, they move from one land to the other, and then
because of famine.
Yes, that's right.
They move away from God's country.
That's right.
Famine.
That's right. And he passes away. Husband passes away. And then the two boys, her sons, pass away. And it was just like, wow, you know, I'm left alone. And, you know, but God continues to use her in such a way. And I thought, wow, that is something else. And just when you think your life is over, or it's, you know, you cannot provide anything else to this world, God says, no, I'm not done with you, you know? And so I want all of us to understand, as we're walking through the study, she is really hitting on some incredible points. And I have chills right now just thinking of how each and every one of us are going to actually be transpired from this, because he's going to touch something inside of us that's going to spark flame within us, and we don't know what that is, right? And like she said, write those things down. I've started journaling, and I've never journaled before, I'll just be honest, and I've started journaling that God would just, you know, show me what he's trying to teach me, but more importantly, what's in my life that he's doing, and I can share with others and see those moments. But you have to ask for them, right? You have to say, Lord, show me what you want me to see today, because I'm guilty of being busy as Martha, and instead of sitting still as Mary and really being focused. You know, we can be quick as women going, oh, we need to do this, this, and this, and this. So be mindful as we're going through this that God will really speak to us and teach us what he needs to teach each and every single one of us.
He definitely will transform you through this study if you will let him.
Yeah.
Either you're going to go all in and get all the blessings, or you're going to miss out. So if you go all in, he will absolutely transform you and your heart and the way you see everything.
I love it. I love it. So I have a couple of more questions and a few more. So how do you hope this book will impact the lives of women who are reading it? Not just here, but throughout.
Well, I'm hoping that it will empower and inspire and encourage women to seek a deeper relationship with the Lord and to ask him what your purpose is, to not give up on his plan for you when you think there's no hope. Whether you're sick or need healing, or you're discouraged from job or money or your marriage or whatever issues might be with children, maybe even, be inspired that God has a plan and he's working a plan that you can't see. So your job is to trust him, stay in his word, and learn from that. I'll never forget a personal crisis I was going through when I was reading a particular story in the Old Testament, and that Old Testament story God used to apply to the crisis I was going through. So how did that apply? Well, it was like two enemies in a war talking and so forth. How did that apply to me? Well, it was conversation between me and somebody else. It was like a war.
Wow.
So God showed me how one person handled it, how the other person handled it. So my point is, all the Bible is relevant. God did not write a dead book. He wrote a living book. It is the living word. You will be touched by anything you study and read and spend time in his word with you. If you spend time in the word with him, he will bless you. There's nothing so important in this life that should keep you from studying his word every day. None of the things you do are going to get you to heaven. Only your relationship with him.
Wow.
So
that's such an inspiration.
Yeah,
I mean,
this
it
book
really
will
is.
help.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you believe is the most misunderstood aspect of the roles of the women in the Bible?
I would say that keeping us as women from studying the whole Bible keeps us from knowing these stories about the women that God put in there to encourage and inspire us. So I think it has been the enemy's plan all along for us not to study the whole Bible, so we won't know what God has in there to encourage us. And by doing that, it's easy for us to believe the lies that the enemy throws at us all day, every day about who we are. A lie I believed my whole life, I was set aside. I was never chosen by any team or any activity. I felt set aside. And when I started reading the Bible from the beginning and learning these stories, I found out I wasn't set aside. I was set apart.
Woo!
God set me apart. Did you ever feel like growing up in life that you didn't fit in? Well, you didn't, because God set you apart. That's why you didn't ever fit in. Once you realize that, you're like, I don't even want to be a part of that group.
Yeah.
So I think a disservice has been that we have been prevented from knowing these stories.
Awesome.
And God has changed that now.
Yes. Well, and that leads us to the next question that I have for you is, how can we, as contemporary women today, relate to, and we alluded to that a little bit earlier, but how can we relate to these women that are going on in the past times of now, looking at us now and all that we're dealing with? And most of us, there are some people that have lived really good lives and have yet to experience hard times.
That's true.
Now, there's many of us that kind of go like this. It's like it's a bumpy road, right? And we have experienced that. We've seen how God has helped us and got us through that. But not everyone has. But how can us as temporary women today relate to those women in the story?
Well, it's very common misconception that is then.
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
old. That is Bible times. That's not going to apply. It's kind of like kids say to their parents, "You don't understand. Things are different now."
I think I've heard that about 5 times. Yeah.
5
kids. Children.
Yeah. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's natural to think they don't know that Bible is not going to apply to you today.
That's good.
But that's not true.
That's good.
When you study the whole Bible, God, and let the Holy Spirit teach you, God shows you how this applies to you today. I don't have to tell you how it's going to apply to you. God will tell you.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I'm like, I totally get that.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
I've
totally
been there.
get some of them. Yes.
So, yeah, you will get it.
Yeah.
God's word is alive, and trust me, it will apply to today.
So, what do you hope that the readers today will take away, or any readers that are reading, what do you hope that they can take away on their own purpose and calling as they are reading Chosen and Crowned?
Well, this book, because it will inspire and encourage you, the more you commit to it and go deeper and study with him, it's going to give you purpose.
Mm-hmm.
God will show you your purpose. He will put a dream. Most women on here, you're grown, you're adults, you're not kids.
Yeah, we're all adults.
So
we made it.
The dream was planted in you when you were a child.
Yeah.
God had your purpose before he even created you. Before the beginning of time, he had this purpose. Then he put you on this earth when he needed you for that purpose. So he put you in your mother's womb at the exact time, exact year, for you many years later, for that dream to come alive, find your purpose, and God's going to use you to help the women in your generation for whatever that purpose is. So this book is going to wake you up,
Ooh,
give you
sister.
hope, and inspire you.
It is awesome. Yeah, and let's talk about how you envision this book to be used in groups, or even if someone's here and they're going through it and they go, oh my gosh, I would love for my church women to be a part of this, or I would like to start my own study right outside of this. And how can they, how do you hope that these groups or individuals can, how do you envision them to use this book?
Okay, you can use it either as a personal study.
Okay.
Go at your own pace. Grab your Bible and just like you have been doing, is just wake up every morning, go to the next woman. Or I don't know how many you read a day, but you could read more than one a day because they're very short chapters.
They are short. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I only covered, I think, 33 women. Mm-hmm. There's a few of them that I did not put in. God did not put in there. I didn't decide. But you can read a number a day.
Okay, yeah.
So if you're going to do a group study, then you can, if you're going to do it 6 weeks or 8 weeks, have 4 or 5 studies a week, 4 or 5 stories a week that everybody will read. Jot down what it's got reflection questions at the back. Yep. Jot down what it meant to you. And then the leader can just have an open discussion and say, how did Esther's story relate to you?
Yeah.
What did you learn? And it's the conversations
Absolutely.
And the testimonies, I believe, that are going to build each other's heart up and build each other up. So you have a community of women that are suddenly all inspired with purpose and hope. It's gonna be amazing. So group study, I highly recommend because you're feeding off of each other. That's right.
This is good. Yeah. This is really good. I love that. And then the last thing.
Oh, and let me tell you too. Yeah. God said this year that we were doing podcast, which is something new for me. So I am currently reading each chapter for you on a podcast. And I'm having so much fun reading this because I'm learning new things again while doing it. And of course, while I'm reading it to you on the podcast, there will also be video so you could see it or listen.
Love it.
I'm going through each story, each chapter, and I'm giving personal nuggets and opinions about different things. And so you get extra added fluff. And it will be free. It's just a podcast.
Oh,
so
cool.
That should be out around the 1st of March, we hope. So
very cool.
This study can just keep going and blessing others. And plus, who knows what this world will do. If we can't get together, we can definitely go listen to the podcast.
Well, I mean, how many times? I know I have read books, but then also audio, I've listened to them or recap them. And that was where I grew even more because I was listening to the author. I was listening to them read it and really, like you said, pull out the nuggets of it. And so that's kind of what we're doing today, but also really cool that you're doing that because we can be traveling and we just say, you know what, we read that, but we want to re-engage with this again. Let me do that while I'm traveling and listen. And maybe I can get, instead of listening to all the songs, I don't even listen to music that much anymore. And I don't watch TV. So I am always.
Unless it's football, of course.
Well, of course. Down the hut. So I do listen to praise and worship. That probably is, I need to clarify that because I do. But outside of that, I mean, I want to grow. Like I told God, I was like, I am just like almost in mud, just spinning, if I am not really trying to grow as a person and allow you to work in and through me, to use me to further your kingdom. And so I found myself kind of in a rut where I would just sit, when I never really used to watch TV, and I would find myself just sitting down watching TV or sitting down and just scrolling, through social media. And I found myself just, kind of like falling into this trap of what I call the mud moment. And that was just 2023. And I just really cried out one day and I said, God, I really want you to use me to a bigger purpose and a plan, because I know that I was created for that. I know that. And I was finding myself just sitting right in that mud. And so all those years that I had said, don't sit long in the mud, get yourself up out of it. And I found myself sitting there for months. And
it was a teaching moment.
It was such a teaching moment, because I thought to myself, Mary, you've got to pull your bootstraps up, as my dad used to say, and let's move forward. So,
well, that's one of the things I liked about this is we can be real. We don't have to pretend to have it all together.
That's right.
Be perfect Christians. We're learning and growing, and that stretching and the tests and trials that God puts us through, they hurt, and we need to know there's other women going through it.
Absolutely.
So that's what this
Y'all
is
didn't
about
think
as
I was
well.
perfect, did you? Because I am not.
Hey, just because we laugh and smile doesn't mean we don't have problems.
That's exactly right. I mean, that brings a point, you guys. And it just, how many people do you know and you see, social media is the worst, so don't even look at that, right? But how many people do you see on a day-to-day basis that are smiling, and I'm going to get choked up, but on the back end, they're hurting.
Yeah.
They're struggling. And that may be you. You may be someone out there that, is putting on a smile just to get through the day. And I don't know what you're dealing with and what you're facing, but I want you to know that you're not alone. For us to really hold each other up. So I love that you brought that up in the very beginning, where, as our hands are, as we're holding things up and we're bringing all the luggage with us, it's time for us to lay that luggage down that we're struggling with. What luggage is that? Is that feeling burdened with all of the weight that you're carrying? Is that you lost someone, maybe a son, maybe a husband, maybe a friend, and you're carrying that with you? Maybe is it you went through a divorce, and years later you're still carrying the struggle and that burden of that. Maybe you lost a job. You know what? I carried that for 4 years. I'm not going to deny that. I carried that burden with me for 4 years, and that was painful.
And what was I doing?
Woo, that was the most painful.
Holding up.
I really, and God showed that to me in 23. He said, you have been carrying that all these years. And instead, I had a purpose and plan for you, that something bigger was coming. But you held on to that and you latched onto that. And in 23, you guys, I nearly thought I was going to have a breakdown, because there was so much coming at me with our son graduating. And, it was just too much going on at one time. And maybe that's where you are. You have so much going on. It's kind of like a computer and all those little...
I call it spinning plates. You got spinning plates
everywhere. You've got all of those little, how many of y'all are sitting on the computer now, and you've got all those little windows open.
Oh, the tabs.
Right, the tabs.
Yeah, I got about 50.
How many tabs do we have open, right? And it's like, we've got to shut those off so that God can really move in our lives. And that was what I had to do. I had to shut things out. And I could have followed, others, and I tried. But let me tell you something. God said, exactly to your point. Wow, this is so profound. It's like He has chosen you to maybe go over here and be a part of this so that you can do something bigger for Him and for His glory and for His kingdom, right? And I didn't always understand that, but I tell you right now, God has me in a place where He is really speaking to me. And I want this for you guys to be able to walk through the study and allow Him to really speak to you. And so let's not just walk through this one time, but let's really I think the biggest part is where he really speaks to us is where we're leading it ourselves. And that's where he really speaks to us and shows up. So hopefully you can take this study and go out and do something. I may have answered that question for her. Sorry. But
well, I was going to say that, as women with those, I love the analogy. Instead of spinning plates, I'm going to use open tabs.
yeah, because that is really every day, right?
But as women, I think it's something God ingrained in us that we think we have to do it all
and
be all to everyone and everything.
Listen up, this is huge.
And God can't get through all those tabs. He can't speak to us. We can't hear him because of all those tabs or spinning plates or baggage. He needs us to lay all that down as we've been taught at the cross. Literally, let it go. And just look at him and say, okay, Lord. And like for me, I know and most of y'all may know what your crises have been, but my biggest one was when my husband passed away. And I'm like, what now? I closed all those tabs. I'm like, I don't know, Lord. I don't know. Just tell me what's next. So you, in your same way, you're saying last year, I call it a crisis of belief, where you just think, okay, Lord, it's either you or it's nothing, because I'm not going to survive under all this weight that I'm carrying. So I'm done. I'll just give it to you. And that's when he can start pouring into you with that love and dropping books in you and giving you your purpose and speaking to you. He can't do that if you don't let go of all that other stuff. None of that stuff is important. That stuff won't get you to heaven. And I heard a quote recently from a pastor that said, sorry about the pup, the wind is blowing outside. Maybe she was saying, yeah. So the quote was that if somebody's not bringing you closer to God, they're taking you away from God. So make sure you surround yourself with people who are bringing you closer to God. And if people have left your life and you are still hurting from that, that was a gift. That was part of God's plan to get those toxic people out of your life. Wow. Every bad thing is not from the enemy. Sometimes they're God protection. It's God's protection.
Wow, that's huge. It's so powerful, because every time she writes a book, I'm like, okay, we got to go get this out. We got to go. We went to Books A Million and we had such a fun time. And
I think it's Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble, that's right. And we had such a great time. You guys have girlfriends that really lift you up, like she's saying, and just really kind of support you and add value into your life. And if you don't have those, they're not your support system, and it's okay to let that go.
Yeah, that moment she's speaking of was Abandoned But Not Alone, my first book. I always had a dream what it must be like for an author to have a book in a store or the library, and I wanted my book in Books A Million, but they closed. So there's a Barnes and Noble nearby, and I messaged her one day and I said, they're going to let me put my book on display in the local one as a consignment kind of thing, because my book is sold online. And she said, I'll go with you. And I was scared to death, but because she was with me, she just made me so calm. And
y'all know we were like busting up in there. I had the camera going.
She had the camera. She videoed everything. And
I was like, girl, we gotta go.
She was such a support system. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Oh. Well, in closing, what advice do you have for these women, or any women who are seeking to? I have glasses for a reason. I've got them like doing this number over here. Hold on, please. So what advice do you have for women who are seeking to discover their own purpose and calling?
Okay, first, get the book, listen to the Lord, shut out the world, stop listening to the lies. Once you put your faith in Jesus totally, and a lot of us have grown up knowing him, going to church, so forth, but it's time to go from the faith level to the belief level. So let's take it up a notch and trust him with everything. You know, time's short. We're living in some crazy times.
Oh, sister.
Give your life to Jesus, rededicate your life to Jesus and say, Lord, I want to make sure I'm spending eternity with you. Nothing else matters. What do I need to do? And find your purpose. And I wanted to share something. He tells me what to write about in blogs every week.
Yeah.
So one of the ones we recently wrote, because you will find in this book, I use the name Adonai, and that is one of God's names. And I've had some people say, why do you use that name?
I looked it up, actually.
See? So he wanted me to tell you that Adonai, a couple of things actually. We wrote a blog about all his names, so you can go to my website and read, get to know your God, get to know what his nicknames are. I love nicknames. My Heavenly Father loves them too. He has a bunch.
What's my nickname?
Mud.
She calls me Mud. M-U-D.
But that's her initials when she has her little When we first met, she had a monogram necklace.
It's cute. It's cute. And it goes right along with my mud moments that I always talk about. But go ahead.
The middle initial U, the way they do monograms. So her maiden name was D and Mary on the front. So it said Mud. And when I saw it, I was like, Mud, that is your name. I'm calling you Mud because if she wore Mud, then that must mean something. And that was adorable. So I always call her Mud. And then she had the Mud moments, and that was perfect.
Yeah.
So nicknames. So Adonai, just so you know, because when you start learning his names, you feel closer to him. So get to know your God and don't be afraid of his different names because they're not tags. For him, they're not tags. For us, they may just be fun. His all have meaning. Adonai, is plural. So singular is Adon, A-D-O-N. A-D-O-N means Lord in Hebrew, which was Jesus' time language. So Adon means Lord. Adonai, you add an A-I, is plural. So plural Adonai covers the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So when you say Adonai, you're talking about all three.
Wow.
So I'm like, I am talking about all three.
Wow.
So that is huge. But one of his names that I loved when I was doing the study that I wanted to make sure I said it right is Jehovah Mekadishkim. It's a mouthful, but it means the Lord who sanctifies. And you know, that's one of those words that I'm like, what does sanctify exactly mean again? And I always have to look it up as I'm growing and learning. I don't know it all, trust me. And it means God set us apart. Ooh. We are chosen. I'm like, that's our word. That's our word. We are chosen and set apart for a special purpose. And I wanted to share a verse that goes along with this book, but for all of us. And it's Revelation 3:11. And it says, I am coming soon. Hold on to what you have so that no one will take away your crown. And God gave us that crown. We were chosen and crowned, set apart for a special purpose. So I hope all of you are blessed and enjoy this.
Wow, golden, right? So it's just a beautiful thing, you guys. Wherever you are in life, whatever you're dealing with, or whatever you're going to be facing, because we know that times are going to get tougher before they get better, because Scripture tells us that. But don't be alarmed. Don't be scared, nervous. I tell people all the time, like people ask, you know, how do you stay so calm through all that you've gone through? And if y'all only knew my story, you would be like, because this woman knows.
Hey, this girl's a survivor.
Ooh, like I have been through it all. But let me tell you, there is a moment in time whether you believe or you have faith. Like like you truly believe him, or you have faith. Like I have faith that it's going to happen, right? Or, you know, maybe, right? Because there's always that maybe. But what about this? The but comes in, right? But what about this?
You know the difference between faith and belief? Faith is, you know he can do it. Belief is, you know he will do it. You've got to believe that God will do what he says he will do.
So you guys, Amazon, right here. We've got the link.
Or the website.
Or the website.
Yeah,
okay.
It's easier to go through the website because you can go straight to the bookstore and click on it. When you go to Amazon, it may or may not come up when you type in chosen
Okay,
crown. So
okay.
this way you can go straight to my website, go to the bookstore, and it
We're
takes
gonna-
you to Amazon to buy then.
And we'll drop that link below so that
Yeah.
you guys have that right here in this thread. And I am just so glad that you wrote this. And I just knew that this needed to get out. I was like, not alone. I mean, let alone it's gorgeous, right? I mean, every single woman wants to wear a crown. And I don't care whether you say, no, not me, but you do. Because every
You wanna be
female
special.
wants to be special, wants to be supported, wants to, add value, not only into your own life, but into others. Oh my gosh, what a joy.
This has been fun.
It
This
has
been
been.
fun.
It has been. Thank you so much
You're
for all that you have done for me and supported me. And I'm going to cry again. But you're so amazing, and you've been a great friend. And I just love that you're being obedient, and you're taking what God has gifted you with. And that's the thing. A lot of times people don't know their purpose, and it's our talents. It's that He has birthed within us. And so many times we think, oh, well, what talent do we have? Well, that's where we've got to get back to Him and say, God, what talents did you create within us? I think we all know, though.
But you know another thing about that, and I don't mean to belabor the point, but it's not easy. It's scary.
It is.
It's scary because it's an out of the boat moment, as
That's
I call
true.
it. When God tells you your purpose, I want you to go do this. I'm like, I don't know. I'm having heart palpitations. I don't think I can do it, Lord. And He's like, hold my hand. I got you.
All
Just
right.
like He said to Peter coming across the water.
Yes.
Come, hold my hand. Don't look this way. Don't look down.
Yes.
So it's not easy. I just want to point out
that's true.
we have had to work through our
So
fears
true.
with God, and you will do the same.
So true. So true.
If it
And
was
we're here to
easy,
support you.
everybody would do it.
That's
right.
right. Thank you again. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I love you. Mwah.